Welcome to the Warp. This is the third of 3 videos showcasing aliens from Cosmic Dominion, the 5th expansion to Cosmic Encounter. Each video focused on a different alert level, and this one is for the Red Alert aliens. Let's look. Ace is an alternate win alien with a very powerful path to victory, although it's a lonely one for the player controlling Ace. Ace wins the game if it starts a turn with at least one foreign colony. Pretty nifty. Ace starts the game with 1 fewer home planets and 4 ships in the warp. This game setup exists primarily to prevent players from acquiring Ace mid-game, as a reincarnator power or as Chrysalis's transformation, for example. The balancing mechanic is that the other players can more easily target Ace's foreign colonies. But if Ace gets a foreign colony, there's no guarantee other players will get the opportunity they need to attempt taking it out. Ace is a really innovative design, and games with Ace in it tend to be extra tense. But lonely, as I mentioned, because no one wants to invite Ace to ally on either side of an encounter, nor should they. Choosing to play Ace is mostly a personal challenge, and everyone should have it on their cosmic bucket list. Aristocrat is the classic 75th alien from the Eon set. It gets to pick a starting hand before other players are dealt theirs, and each time Aristocrat is a main player, it gets to draw a flare from the unused deck and add it to hand, discarding an excess flare from hand provided it doesn't match a player's alien power, removing it from the game. This is a terrific alien to play. The key, though, is you only have 1 minute to search the deck for cards for your starting hand, and you can't have your own super flare as part of that hand. You do get the benefit of knowing what other aliens are in the game, and that can have an influence on what you draw. At Cosmic-Con, I won the championship with this alien, and I definitely chose my starting hand based on some of the other aliens. For instance, Meser was in that game, and I knew if he got a hold of any artifacts that I would be hand-zapped in a hot minute. So I loaded up on artifacts, including 2 cosmic zaps and a card zap, as insurance. You typically don't have time to read all of the flares in the deck, so unless you are familiar with many of their effects, I recommend skipping over most of them and getting other cards for that starting hand. You'll eventually get flares to play with and won't have to ditch one right away. Doppelganger is an alien that has undergone multiple changes through editions. Meser changed the Eon version because they felt it was overpowered. That version got to take another player's highest attack card and a compromise or negotiate card, usually Doppelganger's opponent. This meant virtually every encounter, Doppelganger was going to have the better attack card and would win. Meser's version was quite a bit different, allowing it to force any player to hand over any 2 cards, and if Doppelganger didn't like them, would get to search that player's hand for any 2 remaining cards. This was an interesting little mind game where you could offer Doppelganger a good card and maybe a lousy one, seeing if they would be satisfied, or sometimes tempting them to set aside your best card because you also included a dud. Dominion's version was more like the original, but prevented Doppelganger from targeting its opponent specifically. It also accounted for the fact that there are now more than 2 types of encounter cards, but still requires the highest attack card to be one of the cards. It's a very formidable alien to play, and always has pretty good options. You can get a good sense about which player to haunt, so you always have the best shot to win as a main player. Joker is a very entertaining alien to play. Its design was the result of 2 aliens under consideration for the fan expansion. One was an alien called Joker that could play artifacts as any encounter card. This pretty much meant artifacts would be attack 40s about 99% of the time, and wasn't that interesting. The other alien was called Numerologist and could change players' revealed encounter cards into one of 6 number values, but this proved to be too abusive. The 2 aliens were combined into a new version of Joker, which is a lot of fun to play and still pretty strong. This Joker starts the game with attack 8s as wild cards. Whenever anyone reveals a wild card, Joker must use a token with an encounter card value, either an attack 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, or 42, a negotiate, a morph, or a retreat, to replace that revealed card's value. Once all tokens have been used, they can be used again. At the start of Joker's turn, it can set a new attack card as wild, which means Joker can look at what's in his or her hand and decide to make something their wild. 8 is the most common number of attack card in the deck, so there's much potential for use, even if Joker doesn't change the wild. Joker can also capitalize on alliances by promising to replace with a winning value if invited along. This is one of my favorite aliens in Dominion, and I never pass up the chance to play it. Judge is potentially very powerful. As a main player, before encounter cards are selected, you may declare any gains that either the winner or the loser, but not both, will get if an attack card is revealed. These gains are things you'd get in a deal, like the winner will also get all of the loser's cards and a colony on any planet where the loser has a colony. The fiat is in addition to the normal results. Thus, if you think you will lose as a main player, you can set yourself up to gain something anyway. Or if you are sure you can win, you could gain 2 colonies for winning as the offense. When Judge is in the game, other players need to save up their cosmic zaps. Mesmer is an alien that can change any artifact it's holding into any other artifact. That latitude is extremely powerful, but does require having at least 1 artifact in hand to work. I've seen Mesmer unable to do anything in a game because it just never had an artifact to work with. You need to ally with the defense more if you don't have any artifacts to increase the chances of drawing one, or try to get into a deal situation and bargain for one. Having 1 artifact is critical to positioning yourself to win as Mesmer. Pentaform starts the game by drawing 5 additional aliens and arranging them in the order the player wishes to use them, and that order will be triggered by the number of foreign colonies the player has. So the first stage will be when you have no foreign colonies, and the last stage is when you have 4 foreign colonies. This is a fabulous exercise deciding what aliens help you get to 4 colonies and which alien is the best to have once you get there. Now this version in Dominion has the Pentaform player lay out all of the aliens face up so everyone knows what you have. While it doesn't explicitly say so, we always played that the Mayfair version was kept secret until you advanced to the next stage. I still wish we had implemented it that way. Having 6 alien sheets all face up on the table in a pile is clunky and inelegant in my opinion. Still, it's a very fun alien to play. I love all of the meta aliens that get to make use of other aliens in the game. With nearly 200 to choose from, it's not easy getting to them all. Pentaform lets you at least tinker with several at once. And finally, Reactor, the most unconventional alien in Cosmic Dominion. This one does not have a lot of appeal at first glance, and most players will wonder why you'd ever choose it, but you have to include its flare effects as part of the alien's power, because Reactor is all about the super flares. Reactor starts the game with the super flares of every other alien in the game on Reactor's sheet. As an ally, if the main player on Reactor's side wins the encounter and his or her matching flare is on the sheet, Reactor must give that player his or her matching flare. Getting your own super flare is not common, so quite tempting to invite Reactor so you can get it. But removing flares from Reactor's sheet is what Reactor wants. If neither main player invites Reactor to ally and one of them loses the encounter, Reactor may add the losing main player's flare to his hand, discard that flare from Reactor's hand, or add Reactor's own flare to his hand if it's on the sheet. Thus, flares are leaving that sheet one way or the other. If you don't get your own flare, Reactor will get it, and he can use it until the next time you don't invite him and then lose, or any of the other usual ways one might lose a flare. Reactor is trying to ultimately have no flares on his sheet or in hand other than the Reactor super flare, which gives him an alternate win. Any player's super flare that is discarded by anyone other than Reactor gets automatically sent to Reactor's sheet, including his own. So yes, there's a lot going on here, and winning as Reactor is certainly not an easy task. But I like it because it creates games where several players have their super flares, and that makes for some crazy cosmic action. Reactor's counting on players being greedy for power and using it, and it's hard for other players to hold on to Reactor's super flare for very long. You can use it to gain a foreign colony as a winning defensive player, but then you have to hand it over to Reactor. You also have to hand it over if you have your own super flare and use it. This is what makes Reactor so unconventional. It's just a wildly different cosmic encounter experience. And pulling off the win as Reactor is about as challenging as winning with the ace, just not quite as lonely an experience.
Unsurprisingly, I like these aliens a lot. They're all fun to play and powerful in their own way. Reactor is definitely the most complex, but actually once you start playing it, it's pretty straightforward. And the other aliens are also not hard to play, but playing against them is why they're Red Alert aliens. So I hope you found this informative, and I hope to see you next time.